Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our I4C elected council meeting this morning. It is really wonderful to see so many of you. I've been gone a little while, and it's nice to be back. I'm going to begin by calling us to order with a land and race acknowledgement that we use in the justice work of my faith tradition, Unitarian Universalism. We acknowledge that we live our lives on land stolen from its indigenous peoples through colonization and genocide. We pay respects today to their elders, both past and present. The first peoples of the places known as Contra Costa counties are the Bay Miwok people. They knew and understood understand the natural world with an intimacy unfathomable to today's society. Their sacred narratives describe how the world and people were created at the dawn of time. Today, Native communities are diverse as those of their ancestors. They honor their ancestors and enduring connections to traditional homelands by advocating for environmental protection, restoring Native land management practices, and working to preserve and protect ancient, sacred village, burial, and other sites. We also today acknowledge that our country was built on the involuntary and uncompensated labor of Black people, labor that was violently enforced for hundreds of years. We acknowledge that the Black people that were first enslaved here were violently stolen from their homelands. While the movement for justice and liberation is building, and we are witnessing the power of the people, many are still being met with violence and even being killed. This must end. So again, good morning, and we always begin by reading our covenant with one another, and I believe we have a volunteer, Zula, to help us with that. So I'd like to invite you, if you don't mind, and we'll begin. You are muted. Zula, you're muted.
Oh, I thought sorry, okay.
No worries. Now we hear you. Go ahead.
The governing board and the elected council build and provide a sacred environment that will nurture the growth towards a world of interfaith peace. In solidarity with one another, we each affirm. Our dialogue is an interfaith dialogue. We all have different communication styles and varying views. We commit to be in dialogue with respect for all, expanding, listening to hear multiple points of view. We realize that we are responsible for the growth of I4C, and each of us shares a duty to interfaith growth. The governing board provides leadership, and the elected council works towards progress and the fulfillment of I4C goals as we grow. We recognize that we are imbued with interfaith responsibility. As such, we commit to hold ourselves and each other accountable to merit that trust, respect for diverse traditions, beliefs and spiritual paths of all those we encounter, hold ourselves to the highest ethical standards and accountable to our communities and to I4C. And lastly, our shared time together is interfaith time. We commit to honoring the start and end times each time we meet. It is our hope that this living document, which as we grow in knowledge and awareness, will be reviewed and updated regularly, that it may bring our commitments to each other and all we serve in every interaction with sacred regard for one another and all life.
Thank you so much.
My privilege.
It really is good to be together. And now I would love to invite Erica to give us a summary of the last EC board meeting.
Thank you, everyone, for attending today. The minutes from the August 12th meeting was included in the email that went out yesterday. I hope everyone has had the chance to read it. So without going through any of the details, I want to submit the minutes to the elected council board members that are present here today and ask for your approval of the minutes so we can have it recorded. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from the August 12th elected council meeting? Reza, thank you very much. And can I get somebody to second that motion? Thank you very much, Terry. With those motions in place, is there anyone that needs to discuss anything or add anything to the minutes that was submitted yesterday? If not, then I am going to ask that the board approve the minutes with a show of hands as aye, and so that we can submit these minutes for as approved and recorded. Thank you very much. The minutes of August 12th elected council meeting has been approved unanimously by the elected council members who are in attendance today, and I'm going to submit this approved minutes for recording. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Erica. So now we'll move into our faith reflections for today, and the first person that I would love to invite is Grish Shah, and I hope you're unmuted. Let me see you.
I am unmuted.
Okay, wonderful. Please go right ahead, sir.
Good morning, Jai Jinendra, Namaste, Shalom, Peace, Salam, Sat Sri Akal. I thank you for giving me this opportunity to reflect with you. This is the time of the year for Jains to spiritually reawaken through introspection, repentance, and forgiveness, besides charity, service, and penance. So this is the week that I've been spending time in spiritual activities. Although there is no time for reflect on Jain tenets of nonviolence, multiplicity of viewpoints, or non-possessiveness, which are the eternal ways of life for us, so I reflect my spiritual thoughts of this week because of spiritual week that we had. Please close your eyes. I'm going to recite a Jain mantra, and then I will say, Om Namo Arihantanam, Namo Sittanam, Namo Ayaryanam, Namo Vajjayanam, Namo Loe Savva Sahunam. I pay obeisance to enlightened ones, liberated souls, acharyas and spiritual preceptors, spiritual teachers, and all ascetics. Om Arham. Please open your eyes. Peace and world peace, which is the topic of today. But one must be at peace with oneself to promote peace. And to achieve peace is through forgiveness and friendliness. We Jains recite, and I won't recite it in our language, I'll just use the translation. I forgive all living beings. May all living beings grant me forgiveness. My friendship is with all living beings. I have no enmity with anyone. And we Jains recite this almost every single day. Just keeping in mind that forgiveness is what brings you peace. May you all have strength and wisdom to forgive and forget. It's hard to ask for forgiveness, but it's even hard to truly forgive ourselves and vow not to repeat the mistake. May you find courage to practice forgiveness. As Jain mantra, Parasparopagraho Jivanam says, souls provide service to each other. We are all interdependent and must be friends with all. Friends do not judge each other, do not let ego come in their way, and they know and have no expectation that brings us together. We wish the whole world can be friends with each other. Lastly, may we understand the true cause of suffering. Attachment and delusions are true cause. Attachments to material things and relations cause misery. Attachment to body is delusion. Eternality of soul is a truth. All suffering and infinitesimal and time bound. May we achieve peace and bliss through forgiveness and detachment. Our biggest problem is our ego and our desires. Our desires never end. Our ego always stops us from being humble. Our ego is every aspect of our life, and we react because of anger, greed, etc. And even our thought that I am the best, or my faith is the best, or my community is the best, itself is reflection of an ego. And that's what causes all the suffering that we have in the world today. So contain your ego, contain your desires, and you will be in a happy place. Om Haram, may peace be with upon you.
Thank you so very much. I just had to breathe from that. That was a lovely reflection. I would love to invite Michelle Sinnott now from Moms Demand Action. I understand you're going to give us some advocacy goals. I would love to invite you. I think you're unmuted. Nope. Now you are.
Thank you. I'm going to share my screen. Let's see if I can do that. Yeah, I'm having issues with that. So, hey, Will, I texted you my link, or I emailed you my link. Can you do it for me? Is Will a co-host?
I think I made you a co-host, but I can do this for you if you'd like.
Yeah,
I haven't.
My Zoom. I don't know what's going on.
Just let me know how you'd like to move forward, just like
Yeah,
next slide or however you'd like.
Thank you. So if you can just go to the top of it, that would be great. Thanks. All right. So I want to thank everybody for being here. I don't know if you know about Moms Demand Action, but that's what I'm here to talk about. So if you go to the next slide, Will. Okay, this is what we're going to look at. We're going to just talk about an overview of gun violence in America, talk about who we are, what we've been doing, and give you a couple quick little actions. Okay? Next one. All right. So every day in America, we can't start a presentation like this without talking about what are the facts. And every day in America, 100 Americans are killed with a gun, over 100, and 230 Americans are shot and wounded. These staggering stats are the reason we even exist. We are data-driven, and everything we do is based on statistics that I'm about to share with you. There are a lot of numbers I'm going to throw out, and it's a lot to digest, but it's important to understand, so I'm going to get started. The fact is 100 people every day are killed in America from gun violence, and 200 people are shot and wounded every day. While mass shootings are rare, and they get most of the attention, only 1% of those are actually the overall gun deaths of our country. Suicide accounts for the highest percentage of gun deaths, and a statistic we don't hear about very often. As a gun violence prevention organization, it is our goal to end gun violence in all its forms. So I see you're going forward, so that's fine. We're on slide 4. It's a uniquely American problem. So as you can see, gun homicide rate is 25 times, can you go back, Will? Sorry, thanks. 25 times that of other high income countries. Access to a gun increases the risk of death by homicide by more than 2 times. Gun homicides are concentrated in cities. Half of all gun homicides took place in just 121 cities, which represented nearly a quarter of the US population. And within these cities, gun homicides are most prevalent in racially segregated and neighborhoods with high rates of poverty. If you could just leave it there for a sec. People talk about why this is, right? They give us these excuses that it's about video games or mental health issues or parenting choices as a reason for our gun violence rate in America, because we are so staggeringly high compared to other high income countries. But the truth is that other countries like ours play video games, have an equal degree of mental health issues, and have parents that make all sorts of bad decisions for parenting choices. So what makes us different is really the easy access that we have to guns in this country. Interestingly, access to guns, like it says in here, increases your risk of death homicide by more than twice, which is so interesting because most people have a gun, they think, to protect themselves from being killed. Anyway, I just thought that was, I always like to talk about this because I just think it really points to the discrepancies that we face as a country at high income. So go ahead, Will. Gun violence disproportionately affects communities of color. This is not because Black Americans are inherently more prone to violence than others. The causes of this disproportionate impact are multifold and specific to the history of this country. Our country's history of discriminatory policies have left Black and Hispanic people in segregated communities with high rates of poverty, unemployment, incarceration, and police gun violence. When concentrated, these factors are strong determinants of violent crime. This helps us understand why young boys and men of color living in impoverished, racially homogeneous neighborhoods within cities are the leading victims of gun homicides and assaults. So as you can see, Black Americans are 3 times more likely to be shot and killed by police than white Americans. Black Americans make up 13% of the population, but 56% of firearm homicides. A Black American male is 16 times more likely to die from gun homicide than a white male, and Latinos are 2 times more likely to die from gun homicide than a white male. Go ahead, Will. I really appreciate this, by the way. All right, gun violence is also a women's issue. There is a tremendous intersection between domestic violence and gun violence, which has a huge impact on women and children. American women are 21 times more likely to die by firearm homicide than women in other high-income countries. Access to a gun in a domestic violence situation makes it 5 times more likely that the woman will be killed. And 4.5 million women alive today in America have been threatened with a gun by an intimate partner. With less than 1 million alive today, we have been shot. With about 1 million alive today that have been shot or shot at by an intimate partner. As a mother, this page always just makes me so sad and angry. Like many other Moms Demand Action volunteers, I joined this movement because I was driven by what gun violence has been doing to our children. Firearms are now the leading cause of death for all American children and teens, and it is steadily on the rise. And much of this is 100% preventable. 4.6 million American children live in homes with guns that are unlocked and loaded. In 2020, there were 220 unintentional shootings by children. And I don't like to call them an accident because an accident is preventable, or an accident is, I like to call them unintentional because they can be stopped if people just securely store their weapons. Incidents of gunfire on school grounds is up 80%. For children under the age of 13, these gun homicides most frequently occur in the home and are often connected to domestic or family violence. And Black children or teens are 14 times more likely to die by gun homicide than white children and teens of the same age. Go ahead, Will. So here's the other unspoken tragedy about guns in our country. We have a major suicide problem. Before I became a mother, I was a firefighter paramedic, and I will tell you that I've been on many suicide calls, and the ones that are with a gun, you don't survive. So these statistics include information about suicide and firearms, and access to a gun increases the risk of death by suicide by 3 times. Nearly all 2/3 of gun deaths are suicides. The US gun suicide rate is 10 times that of other high-income countries. Most people who attempt suicide do not die, like I just said, unless they use a gun, and I'm a living testament to that. Gun suicides are concentrated in states with high rates of gun ownership. The rate of firearm suicide among children and teens has increased by 56% in the last 10 years. And while white men represent 87% of firearm suicide victims in America. And again, this all comes down to that access. If you are contemplating suicide and you have access to a gun, you will go through with it. If you are contemplating suicide and you go to get a gun and you have, say, a 3-day waiting period, maybe in those 3 days, you realize that you don't need to take your life. So, next one. So we are at an intersection of 2 pandemics. We have a pandemic that we're living through with coronavirus, and we have a pandemic of gun violence. 22 million guns were sold in 2020. That's a 64% increase in gun sales over 2019. These are just the ones that we can track. There are 3,906 more firearm deaths and 9,278 additional firearm injuries in 2020 versus 2019. Unintentional shooting deaths, those deaths by children finding a gun and pulling the trigger, killing themselves, nearly rose nearly a third in March through December of 2020. Black Americans are twice as likely to die from COVID than white Americans. And like I mentioned earlier, more than 4 times more likely to die by gun homicide. Domestic violence service providers across the country have reported an increase in gun threats to survivors, and road rage gun violence has doubled in the last year. Okay, so I gave you all the statistics, and I think now you have a better understanding of why our organization exists. We were founded by a woman named Shannon Watts, who was a mother of 5 folding laundry in Indiana when the horrific events of Sandy Hook went across her television. She was feeling absolutely helpless, like I think so many of us were, and decided to start a Facebook group. And within, I think, like 3 days, she had 8,000 followers. Within a week, she had 10,000, and the numbers just kept growing. So she founded this group, Moms Demand Action, modeled after Mothers Against Drunk Driving. While the data is alarming, we are confident in our ability to reduce all violence, and we have seen outcomes that show our work is successful. We are a Mothers Demand Action for Gun Sense in America, Mothers and Others, nonpartisan, grassroots. Sorry, I don't know what is going on with my phone. Okay, grassroots, and we work to reduce gun violence in all its forms throughout the US. It's important to know that we are not anti-guns, we are anti-gun violence. We are not anti-Second Amendment. We are anti-gun deaths. We work to pass stronger gun laws, fight bad gun laws, and seek to close loopholes that jeopardize the safety of our families. We work in our communities and with business leaders to encourage a culture of responsible gun ownership. We work to identify, endorse, and campaign for candidates who are gun sense candidates, which is a direct opposite to the NRA A rating that so many of our congressional members used to get. And we work to identify and support community violence prevention programs that are doing the hard work on the ground. So I wanted to just give you, because some of you may actually receive information about us and you might wonder, what is Everytown for Gun Safety and why are they connected? Everytown for Gun Safety was created when Moms Demand Action, Shannon Watts, and actually Michael Bloomberg, can you go back? Sorry, Will. Mayors Against Illegal Guns formed together, and Everytown is basically the fully staffed umbrella. Like they're the ones that actually are financially supported, and they go out and they have an army of lawyers. They are in every state fighting bad gun laws, trying to promote good gun laws. They compile the research, they draft policy, and they create strategies and tools to turn policy into law, obtain funding for gun violence prevention efforts, and they campaign for gun sense candidates. Moms Demand Action and our partner organizations, Students Demand Action and the Everytown Survivor Network, we're like the volunteer army on the ground. We're the ones that are in every state across the country doing the work as much as we're able to as basically full-time volunteers. Okay, so federally and at a state level over the last 8.5 years, we have a 90% win rate in stopping bad NRA-led gun bills at state levels, which is amazing. We've passed background check laws in 21 states. And just to clarify, and I think I talk about this later in the presentation, but not every state has a thorough background check law, and a lot of states allow for loopholes like being able to purchase a gun and online without any kind of background check, and going to a gun show and being able to purchase a gun at that gun show without any kind of background check, and also being able to purchase guns through private sellers without any kind of background check. And that's just incredibly disturbing to me. We've passed red flag laws in 19 states, and what those laws are, they're the laws that, for example, in Florida, after the Parkland shooting, if that perpetrator if there had been a red flag law in the state, the FBI would have been able to go in and seize that kid's weapons. He had been reported several times. He was even reported by his parents. They were alarmed at his behavior and his words and his threats. But the FBI could do nothing because they didn't have a red flag law in that state. So we are really advocating, obviously, to get more red flag laws passed across the country. We've closed the Charleston loophole in 19 states. That's the loophole that allows you to purchase a gun without a background check in gun shows. We've disarmed domestic abusers in 29 states. We have hundreds of companies that have changed their policies, including Dick's, Kroger's. Those are the two big ones that come to my mind. Like Kroger won't allow you to carry your weapon openly in their stores, even though those states, a lot of their states have an open armed policy, carrying policy. And then we've stopped concealed carry reciprocity. And I'm going to just tell you real quick what that is. In America, in our state, you cannot carry a weapon on you without a permit. And we go so far in our state because of Moms Demand Action that if you have a permit to carry a weapon, you actually have to go through 8 hours of training to show that you know how to operate a weapon and safely carry that gun. Other states do not have that. And what the gun lobby has been trying to do for a long time is if you have a concealed carry permit, say in Texas, where you just can go walk in and you just can carry your gun out or in, or carry it covered or not, you could come over to California and have that same protections applied to you, even though you don't live in our state. So we've been fighting to block this for a long time, and we have been successful, thank goodness. But it's constantly out there, constantly looming, because it's a big one the NRA wants to pass. Okay. So obviously, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were elected. We are incredibly happy with that. And because of their election, we've been able to really think about what our gun violence prevention policies will be in these coming 4 years. All of our policy priorities are evidence-based. which is one of the reasons why I love Every Town and Moms Demand Action, because we don't go after anything that we don't think will pass. Like, people are always saying, well, why don't we have a assault weapons ban? Well, we would support an assault weapons ban if the data told us that it was a possible thing to pass. We want that, but we're really pursuing these things that we think we can get to pass. So universal background checks on all gun sales, stopping the Charleston loophole, stopping the online gun sales, getting every single gun purchase in America passed with a background check. Going to that Charleston loophole, it's that gun show loophole where you can just walk in, purchase a gun, walk out. Reauthorize the Violence Against Women Act. I think I talk about that in a little, let's see, no, I don't. Yes, a critical law that had bipartisan support since 1994. It's a common sense gun safety provision in new authorization that will expand domestic violence protections for victims, close the boyfriend loophole and stalker loopholes, and require law enforcement officials to be notified each time an abuser tries to buy a firearm and fails a background check. We're really pushing to pass the George Floyd Violence in Police Justice and Policing Act. It's an important step in creating a system of police accountability, training, and transparency. We are pushing for proven community-based gun violence organizations. I personally work with a group in Richmond, and I'm working in Antioch to get a group established. What these are groups that are on the ground. If someone is shot and killed, they get to a hospital bed and they stop that, or sorry, I shouldn't say shot and killed. If they're, well, okay, if they're shot and injured, they go to a hospital bed at that bedside and tell these victims, hey, there is another way. You do not have to retaliate this. And then within the community, when there's a shooting or a violent act, they're on the ground working within that community to stop the retaliatory violence. Because sometimes, like, for example, a year ago in Richmond, there was a shooting that happened that was perpetrated by a group in Antioch. The Richmond, Bay Point, Antioch, Pittsburgh, there was this ricochet of violence that happened throughout the area. And it was all due to the shooting that happened in Richmond. And so these groups help prevent that kind of violence and give at youth risk, or risk at youth, an alternate path. So we're huge supporters of that. I mentioned already the red flag laws. A really scary thing on the horizon, if I haven't scared you enough, is these ghost guns. I think you've heard of it. The shooting that happened last year at, or 2 years ago in Southern California at the school was perpetrated by a kid who had a ghost gun. They are the scariest and fastest growing gun safety threat in our country, and they allow anyone to make an untraceable weapon in less than an hour. I saw you skipped, but I'm super disappointed. I just read today, one of the big pushes we were doing was getting David Chipman confirmed for the ATF. He was a gun sense person advocating for stronger gun laws. And I just read today that Biden pulled his nomination for him because Manchin and Ayers refused to support him. So I don't know what's going to happen with that, but very disappointing. All right. Other federal and state level wins that we've had, we secured a gun sense majority in the White House and Congress. We made nationally over 1.5 million calls, 2.2 million texts, registered 100,000 voters for the 2020 election. We are working right now to defeat the recall on Gavin Newsom. We have 43 volunteers who were elected to public offices, and we actually started a program called Demand a Seat, which is helping people run for offices. We defeated bills in 15 states that would have allowed guns in K through 12 schools, and bills in 9 states that would have forced guns onto college campuses. And in 17 states, we defeated the bill that would have allowed people to carry a hidden loaded handgun in public without a permit. Federally, with Biden in office, he's directed the Department of Justice to propose a regulation within 30 days to stop the proliferation of deadly untraceable ghost guns. modified multiple federal grant programs to increase available funding for community violence intervention programs, which goes back to what I was talking about in that previous slide with those people who are on the ground working to break the cycle of gun violence. They put a model out on how states can adopt a red flag law. You guys can read through these, but it's just, we're so fortunate to have the power of the White House right now. And he is doing a lot. He's doing what he can to move forward our gun safety policies. With the, unfortunately, I just saw that thing on David Chipman, so I gotta go back and clean these slides up. Okay, next one. All right, in California, so as I mentioned, we are across the nation, but every single state has a chapter. In California, we are the California Moms Demand Action Team. And our number one priority this year was to increase funding for these violence intervention programs I was talking about. And Governor Newsom did that, and he promised $200 million in investment in these kinds of programs. It's the largest ever investment in any state in community violence prevention and intervention, and it includes baseline funding of $9 million plus $200 million one-time general fund grants over 3 years to expand the program. Okay, and I just should say that gun violence has an incredibly high toll financially on communities, and so that 200 million sounds like a lot, but it really does in the end save states money. Okay, so these are what we're working on. We are working on this AB 988. Some of you may have heard about.
And our Social Justice Alliance is.
Oops. So Miles Hall was killed in Walnut Creek. He's a local child from the Hall family, and he had mental health issues. It's an incredibly sad story. His family worked directly with the police. He was a Black man with a history of mental illness. He actually had diagnosed schizophrenia. The police knew of
we've had Ton Hall.
Okay, good. You guys know. All right, great.
We're very familiar with that, and we just learned yesterday at our SOJA meeting that that's becoming a 2-year bill.
Oh, great. Awesome. All right. Anyway,
so it's not going to pass this year, unfortunately.
No, it won't pass this year, but I mean, at least it's being, it's not killed, it's not dead. Okay, so
and we're running out of time, so we need to wrap up in a couple of minutes.
All right, you can just pop through these then, the rest of them, because I got a few actions for you guys. Just so you guys know, that safe storage, secure storage notification is basically a law that requires any gun under the age of 18 in a home with children under the age of 18 must be locked and secured, so those unintentional shootings can stop. You can keep going, Will. These are cities that have safe storage ordinances, and we are currently working right now to get a safe storage ordinance passed in Antioch and Walnut Creek and Livermore. Next slide. These are things that we've been working on at a local level. Like I said, I've been working with Antioch closely. That's the mayor there, and trying to get a gun violence intervention programs established. Go ahead. Again, more just local efforts that we've been working on. We're so lucky to have Rebecca Bauer-Cahan. She's started.
Would you say more about Latimer Arboleda and Tyrell Wilson?
Yes. So Latimer Alvareda and Tyrell Wilson were both killed by this Walnut Creek Danville police officer. We helped support a group called Justice for Latimer and Tyrell. They've been working closely with the Danville Police Department to make sure that the officer who was involved in their killing is held to his act. And it's just we're working closely with the Dina Becton's office and trying to make sure that his actions do not go unpunished. All right, so here's some actions for you. If you want to know more, if you want to get involved, text 64433. ready to 64433. We have 2 petitions, super quick act for you guys. If you just hold up your camera, that first one is to push for a universal background check bill to get established. If you hold up your phone to it, you can also just text checks to 64433. That universal background bill, we really want to get this passed while we have our gun sense majority in the House and Senate. And then the George Floyd Policing Act, I believe I spoke to that as well. It's accountability for police officers. And we're basically working on that getting passed as well. So if you, 2 quick actions for you all, if you could sign those petitions, that would be wonderful. Can I get a thumbs up when you think you're done?
I took a screenshot, and then will that work after that? And then
Yeah, and you can go into and just do George Floyd Policing Act. This is another volunteer opportunity that we have. If you have time, you want to make phone calls, we connect you throughout the country to areas that are really fighting hard, like fighting bills like arming teachers. We get people involved to call and educate people on what's happening. And you're welcome to make a donation for 501c3 and C4.
And since we don't have time for Q&A, I'm going to invite you to put your email in the chat room, Michelle,
Sure.
so that other folks are able to know how to contact you. And we can stay in contact, and we
Absolutely.
can join your advocacy listservs, right?
Yes, well, we also, we meet once a month virtually at the last Wednesday of every month. So if you email me, I can get you on that list as well. And Craig is going to be here. Craig Lazaretti's on. He is our interfaith lead for the group. And so he can speak more to the interfaith work that he's been doing. So I really appreciate all of you and your time, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.
Thanks so much, Michelle and Craig. Craig, put your contact information in the chat room as well, so that we can.
Sure, will do. Just quickly, because I know you're short on time, I just want to introduce myself. I'm the interfaith lead for the local chapters of Moms Demand Action. So I'm kind of the liaison with local faith communities on gun violence issues. We took part in a march in Antioch for peace a week or so ago with Most Holy Rosary Church. So those are the kind of things we're eager and willing to help out and work with faith communities on. We know faith communities are on the ground dealing with a lot of the issues that lead to gun violence, and Moms realizes that the faith communities are a big part of the solution to this epidemic. So thank you again for taking the time to listen to us today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Craig. We appreciate you and all the work that you're doing, and we will see how our council and Social Justice Alliance can join you. Let's pause to sing. Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us, above us only sky. Imagine all the people living life for today. Imagine there's no countries. Is it hard to do? Nothing to kill or die for. No conflict between religion too. Imagine all the people living life in peace. You can follow the words in the agenda. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us. And the world will live as one. All right, we're going to move on to our important projects. There's a whole list of them there, and I want to just lift up that we're going to start an interfaith immigration roundtable for any of our congregations. We know we've heard from Jewish Family Community Services that at least 60 families are coming from Afghanistan. We haven't heard how many are coming through the International Rescue Committee or Catholic Charities or other agencies, but we know that at least 60 are coming through JFCS. And so iCare is starting to get organized around some of this, and we also want to convene a roundtable quarterly for members of our congregations that can share best practices, those that have worked with immigrant families before, to help share some best practices with some of the other folks that are in our area. September 19th, we do have our Nurturing the Beloved Community Retreat. We're hearing whether or not that's going to be at San Damiano or not, and so keep an eye out for that, but hope that you register for that. September 21st, we are going to do an International Day of Peace program, and Dr. Erica and the Sukmanis for Peace, and the Interfaith Peace Project, the Interfaith Council of Contra Costa County are working together on that program. And then October 6th, we're having a special Bay Area Interfaith Council conversation with members of our boards from all of the different Bay Area Interfaith Councils to talk about diversity, and especially disaster relief and how we can work with our local VOADs. And we'll have some presentations from the Red Cross and others. We have room for 6 to 10 people from our council, so that's more than our governing board. If you want to attend this, please let me know and I'll get you the contact information. It's an online meeting, October 17th from 10 to 12:30. The Parliament of the World's Religion is October 17th to 18th. It's all online. Registration is cheaper the earlier you do it, so please join us online for that. I'll be a part of a workshop with other Bay Area interfaith leaders on Sunday, October 17th at 7 a.m. But that's a global conference, and there will be things going on probably 24/7. And then our annual meeting, and we really need to hear from you now. Shall we meet in person or only online for our annual meeting on Sunday, November 14th? The meeting would start at 7. If we're able to meet in person, and we do have a place to do this reserved at San Ramon Valley United Methodist, to do potluck and to do our meeting there, and we would be able to live stream it for folks at home, but not be as interactive as we would like. So I'd like to open the conversation real quickly, if we have just a couple minutes to hear from you. Do you feel safe if we were to have that meeting in person, or would you rather have it online? Please unmute yourself to share.
Reverend Will, it's Dave Longhurst. I would encourage us to allow those who are comfortable meeting in person to meet in person, and then have an online option, because I think that there'll probably be varied perspectives. I feel comfortable, given that I'm vaccinated and others wear masks, to meet in person.
Thank you, David. How do others feel? And we totally understand if you have a different perspective on this.
I would feel more comfortable with Zoom.
Can you say that again, Sharon?
I'm in agreement with you.
I said I feel more comfortable with Zoom at this time. I'm in healthcare, and there's just so many variables, even for vaccinated. Thank you.
So online. Thank you, Sharon.
I think that with the increase in the rate of death, especially, and such unknowns, Zoom is how most organizations are now rescheduling their appointments around. So I would go with Zoom.
Also,
Are we pretty much
go online, please?
I'm hearing more comfort with the online, but openness for the hybrid. Yeah, Carolyn?
I'm with David with the hybrid. I'm still ambivalent for myself.
Okay, understandable. Lots of unknowns out there right now. Yeah, Diane.
Through the organizations I've been working with, I've done. I think it's good to have proof of vaccine and wearing masks, and possibly we could do, I don't know. volunteer rapid tests. I don't know, or just so many options. I think, but I think
Okay. Just so you know, the singing messengers have not returned to singing in any of the senior homes, and that might be our best tell, right? If our seniors aren't feeling safe to go sing to other seniors in senior homes, then we probably aren't in a place where we're all feeling more safe and secure. If you turn to page 4, thank you everyone. If you turn to page 4 in your agenda, I'm going to encourage you to just take a look. There's 2 sets of curriculums that we have. The first one we've already recorded, and I did it with the Tri-City Interfaith Council and my friend Joy Barnett, who's the chair of that group right now. And we hosted all 3 of these meetings online, and we're able to do recordings of them. Diffusing Hatred Program, Everyday Peacemaking, and Courageous Conversations. And I just want to thank Joy and having a good partnership to be able to host this online and provides a forum for learning interfaith skills for members of her Interfaith Council. Members of our own Interfaith Council took a part in this as well. And now that they're recorded, they're a part of our YouTube channel, and you can use them in your religious education, and we encourage you to do so. And then we also have a Coping with Nationalism program series that Father Tom and I have been working on for the last few months. And we hope to have this recorded later this month or finished by early October, also put on our YouTube channel. And we're going to have a small group of folks from our elected council that'll be a part of the conversation with Father Tom for the recordings. And if you'd like to participate in that, please let me know. It'll most likely be on a Wednesday afternoon. And then of course, we have other programs that are saved in there, like the Big Questions gatherings that are monthly gatherings that the Rossmore Interfaith Council are putting on. But all of our meetings, Big Questions with Reverend Julius and me and Dr. Nazir Ahmed and others, including some of our Intro to iCare, and programs, anti-racism programs like the Cultural Mindfulness with Reverend Dr. Dale, and some of our other Transforming Trauma and Understanding Northern California Native History are on there as well. And of course, we've had 2 fabulous retreats already this year, and are looking forward to our next 2 coming up. The only question is whether we'll be at San Damiano or not. And then we had a great August action with MFAC, but we're really encouraging communities to be prepared for disasters and encouraging each congregation to have their own emergency plan, and each congregation to encourage their members to have emergency plans for themselves, to have that communicated with their families, and maybe even start to reach out to members of their community. So we will take all of our feedback that we've gotten today about the annual meeting into consideration, and continue to encourage you to go to the Parliament online, and our iCare reports. If we can have brief reports from each of our committees. Most of them are in writing, but please share what you need to in person.
Hi,
Terry,
everyone.
Dave?
I co-chair iCare with Dave Longhurst, and we're each going to make specific requests of you as EC members to please act as ambassadors back to your congregations and spread the word about the volunteer opportunities at through iCare. And I'm going to put in the chat, I just did, the link to Sign Up Genius. We are celebrating the 1-year anniversary of iCare by providing volunteers the week of September 27th at White Pony Express. And this is for people who want to meet in a COVID safe way to organize food and clothing. So we've opened it up to anyone in the interfaith community and among our members. So you can sign up as individuals, or if your congregation wants to co-sponsor half a day and a slot and whatever, you can do that. So that's the biggest ask I have for you right now. Always look at our iCare e-blasts for opportunities to engage your congregation and your fellow congregants in an interfaith way of serving. Dave?
Thank you very much, Terry. I want to just highlight some opportunities that we have to help our Afghan refugees that are coming to the area. As you may be aware, that there's agencies, primarily JFCS and IRC, are working to resettle a large number. We don't even know how many refugees, but there'll be a large number of refugees coming. And so they're really scrambling. Reverend Will sent out a document with the agenda that has a number of ways that we could volunteer and help support that effort. I'd like to just highlight a couple and then add a third. The two I'd like to highlight is that we're looking for people who can lead volunteers. There's like over 2,000 volunteers have asked to help, but they just can't keep up with all these volunteers. So the idea would be that if someone could just help organize volunteers. Second opportunity is storage warehousing. There have been a lot of donations of household furnishings, and they would really like to have a place where they could store these furnishings. We're wondering if congregations might be open to having some of these furnishings stored at their building, or maybe you have a storage facility that you could store them at. So that's an ask to Terry's point, that could you take that back to your clergy or your leadership and see if there might be a way that we can help out by providing some storage. I can provide some further information. I think we're going to push something out via email so you can see that in more detail. And then third is they're looking for drivers of trucks or vans that can just on the spur of the moment, within a day's notice, drive and move household furnishings, help people move in. So that's another request. But again, we'll push all these out via email. We'll just really appreciate your support and see what we can do to help with the Afghani refugee issue. Thank you very much.
Dennis, do you have anything you would like to share from Soja quickly?
Sorry, I was muted. Yes, everything is in the report, but I'd like to just highlight a couple of things. Winter Nights is going to be beginning again towards the end of September, and also the overnight parking is going to be on a very successful program, and it's doing very well. And it's going to be it's under the Winter Nights umbrella, and they're going to be doing it year-round now. One other quick thing, the Concord Naval Weapons Station issue, you've probably heard that CNO and Discovery were voted to be the developers going forward. It was a 3-2 vote, and very controversial. There are some aspects behind that we feel perhaps Soja will be able to work with the new developers, but we're looking into that. Other than that, and Will mentioned the disaster relief network and so on. Please take a good look at that. Thank you.
No, thank you. And in the interest of time, we really want to be able to allow people the opportunity to share a brief reflection on your tradition and peace and what that means to you and your tradition. Meg, I'm wondering if you have something very quick that you would like to point us to for iChange. There's a lot of good work there, but we are running out of time.
Yeah, I'd just like to refer everyone to the report that is in the agenda. And also, we submitted an article for this month's newsletter. So I think that'll provide all the detail you need on what we're doing. But we're very excited. We feel like we're moving forward and looking forward to giving you even more information in the future.
Thank you so much. So with the time that we have left, we want to go into our interfaith dialogue. We're going to do it a little different this time. We're not breaking into small groups. So this is a wonderful opportunity for people to sit and reflect on sharing the space in an appropriate way. Some of us speak a lot, talk a lot, share a lot. Other people don't take that opportunity. So I'm just going to ask you to sit with your heart and decide who you are, what your default mode is, and whether or not what you really want to share needs to be shared. Or maybe you want to defer the space to someone else who doesn't usually take up the space. Just a simple reflection there. Again, because we're running low on time. So peace from all of our own faith traditions or our life or lived philosophy, that's what we are looking for. How you in your faith or philosophical tradition reflect on peace and what that means to you. And this may come up for you in music or art, poetry, just a short reflection. We're looking for 2 to 3 minutes of sharing from people who so feel moved. And the way we'll do this is there is a hand raising icon in Zoom so that you can raise your hand. And as you raise your hand, I will go ahead and lower your hand and call on you. And that way we can do it in a somewhat ordered fashion. So when the Spirit moves you, go ahead and raise your hand. Sure, the visual hand works as well, Reza. I saw you, so I would love to invite you to begin our sharing.
Thank you. Thank you all. And good morning to everybody. This is from Islamic Sufism, MT or Shah Maksudi, Sufi Masters. Professor Nader Anga, 42nd Sufi Master, in the Book of Sufism and Peace, states, I believe it is time that world leaders, educators, and researchers take a look at the result of their past efforts and change the existing educational system. Unless these changes are made and future generations are trained to know their true human rights, there will be no hope for peace, democracy, and survival. If each human being is trained to develop all inherent talents and abilities, they will be able to stand against baseless and unfounded ideas at any cost. What system can be more powerful than a society where people have recognized their true human dignity and human right? Can anything but peace prevail in such society? In the Book of Sufism, A Bridge Between Religions, he states, peace and tranquility can never be realized unless each human being is educated to discover the laws governing his or her being. By education, I do not mean acquired knowledge, but innate endured knowledge. The 41st Sufi Master, Professor Sadegh Anga, in the Book of Dawn states, it is up to each person to decide what he or she wishes to nurture and grow. Existence is infinite, and infinite possibilities are available at each instance for each person. What course do you wish to choose on this infinite journey of no return? May God plant the seeds of prosperity, hope, and peace in the land of your heart. Thank you all dearly.
Thank you, Reza. Oh, Jenny, I see your electronic raised hand. I'll invite you.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm Jenny Ali, and I'm representing the Baha'i Faith regarding thoughts on peace. Peace is not merely absence of war, but harmony among peoples throughout the entire planet. I quote, "Earth is one country and mankind its citizens," unquote. God did not create borders, and our earthly bounties are for all to enjoy. Baha'is promote oneness of races, religions, equality of men and women, with equal education for both. Sciences and religion must agree. In this modern era of human maturity, say good riddance to prejudices, superstitions, and dogma, which serve no purpose but to divide mankind. There can be unity in diversity while maintaining individual cultural heritages. Baha'u'llah, for me, translated means the glory of God, and is the manifestation of the Baha'i faith. Born in 1819 in Tehran, Iran. The faith is 178 years old. And Abdul Baha, meaning servant of glory, his eldest son, is the master of the covenant for all of us and the interpreter of his writings. His grandson, Shoghi Effendi, who was educated in Oxford, is the translator of the volumes that are written and archived in Haifa, Israel, atop Mount Carmel in the Universal House of Justice, which is the new administrative order of the faith. I'd like to refer you to the Promulgation of Universal Peace, which was written in response to Abdul Baha's visit to the United States in 1912, where he went from the Bay Area to New York City, and also visited the Unitarian Church in Oakland, having met Phoebe Hearst and Khalil Gibran while he was here. And this is a little bit of some of the pieces of talks that he gave during his 9-month travel to the area. These 3 teachings I will try to make short. His first teaching was that man should independently investigate reality for the age in which he lives. All divine religions in their central and essential teachings are based upon unity, love, and peace. The second teaching is the oneness of humanity. God is one. His servants are one. Man has been made noble and is the image of God, able to display many attributes and live together in love and harmony on earth and in heaven. The third teaching is universal peace among nations, races, religions, and native lands. Universal peace among nations cannot occur until the removal of all prejudices, which is essential. And God is after the hearts of mankind, and religion must be the cause of love and fellowship. It is the remedy of all our human ills, and if it becomes a source of war and strife, it should be abandoned. I'd also like to refer you to The Secret of Divine Civilization, which was written by Abdul Baha in 1875, to give a lot of insights into these teachings. Thank you for your time. And I was raised a Christian, but I was married to a Muslim for 46 years. And I'm really happy to be part of this group.
Thank you so
for
much.
inviting me.
Thank you, Jenny. Thank you for your reflection. Sharon, I would love to invite you at this point.
Thank you. I was raised and worship Christian, but I'm ordained interfaith. And so I chose to go that route when I was at the Chaplaincy Institute for my interfaith studies. We had, as part of our program, to do art in some kind of form. And this one day we had, this one session, we had a Bay Area artist who is Hindu and Muslim, and she does a lot of interfaith work. Her name is Salma Arastu, and you may have heard or be familiar with her beautiful work. So,
we've done programs with Salma Aristu.
Great.
We actually did a grant application that didn't get accepted with her.
Oh, dang. Oh, she's just wonderful. She's very talented, very humble. And she had this canvas that she had started a painting, and it's 3 by 4 feet. So the photo I show you is really not going to do justice. And she taught us Arabic calligraphy with paint. And we practiced writing the word peace. And this canvas, then, she invited us as students to add to it by using Hebrew, English, practicing our Arabic calligraphy again. And so I hope I can, I don't know if that's going to show.
It's not, but I'm going to type in her website in the chat. And if you go to the website, I believe it's the canvas you're talking about.
It's not, because this canvas is hanging in my bedroom.
Okay.
She has similar looking canvases that she has done, but I got this on an auction. And so it does have peace written several different times in Hebrew, in Arabic, and in English. So it's just always a reminder for me that to sleep under that, but also the possibility of that in reality. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Sharon. And again, the website is in the chat if you are interested.
Thank you. I was going to do that, Rodney.
Lula, I would love to invite you again. I just want to remind everyone we are low on time, so please try and keep your reflections to 2 or 3 minutes.
Thank you. Unity, people always ask me about what unity stands for, and we are based on Jesus's teachings, which means kind of Christian. To me, I don't like calling myself that just because of the way I grew up with that word. I felt separate. So, but the unity uses what we call the 12 powers, and I'm going to just read them off to you, which we all have in us. So the 12 powers are life, release, enthusiasm or zeal, order, will, understanding, imagination, power, wisdom, strength, love, and faith. And we each have these in our hearts, in our cells. And if I would like to echo something that Marisa shared about education and the way that we educate our children. I personally, this isn't Unity speaking, but me, I believe that the reason that this country, this world indeed, that the reason we are in the mess that we are is because of carrying on the better than, less than, and the unadulterated hatred of people and separation of people. And if we can just start telling the truth about our histories across the board, that it would begin to change things. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Zula. Mary, I see that you've raised your electronic hand. I'd like to invite you.
Okay. Oops. Am I unmuted? Yeah. Okay.
You are.
Just briefly, I'm Mary Ann Wittenberg. This is my first meeting with you. Thank you for having me. I'm representing Congregation B'nai Tikva. Some of you, I don't know, may have known my late husband, Harry Wittenberg, who was involved with the Interfaith Council. And I will tell you, he was the, more cerebral of the two of us. He was the great communicator and I was the doer in the background. So this is kind of a new role for me. And just briefly, this was an exercise for me. I'm not, a religious scholar by any means, but a couple of things that struck me as I was doing some reading. One is the word shalom, which we all think of as peace, but its Hebrew root word actually refers to a state of affairs, a state of well-being, tranquility, prosperity, and security. And then there was one teaching from the Mishnah, which was, the rabbis tend to spend a lot of time pulling words apart and arguing with each other. But one teaching that kept on coming to mind for me was, by three things the world is preserved: by justice, by truth, and by peace. And these three are one. If justice has been accomplished, so has truth, and so has peace. And that is what I want to share. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Mary, and nice to meet you.
Thank you.
And welcome. And Rebecca, I see your electronic hand is next, so please share.
My name is Rebecca Seaman, and I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Concord. I was thinking about peace and how I can feel peace and what I've been taught peace in my faith tradition. And I think the biggest way that I can feel peace is when I pray to my Heavenly Father and really open up my heart and have the desire to do what He would have me do, even though sometimes I may not understand it, but to put my heart in line with Him. When I pray, I can feel peace, and there's no perfect prayer. And it's from the heart. It's my words and taking time to ponder and pray to Him and to wait and hear the answers. I was praying just a couple weeks ago for my son who just started high school. It's been very scary for him. And I was, waiting to see how I can help him. I'm doing what I could. And when I was walking from one meeting to another in my house, I saw my son just look downtrodden. And I sat down and talked to him, and he was having a really hard time with school. And he had said something that hit me pretty hard after he explained what was going on. That was the first time he had told me what was going on. He said, "Mom, I've been praying and I don't know if God's listening." And I listened to him and I said, "Danny, you're doing the right thing. You're seeking help." And I said, "Thank you for feeling that need to share it with me." And then I was able to write his counselor, who was able to give him help. And then the next day he came home and I said, "How are you doing?" And he said, "Mom, today was a great day. I was able to get everything done. And the counselor helped me switch my classes around." And I looked at him and I said, "Do you think God heard your prayer?" And he said, "Yes, I do." And I said, I know so too, Danny. Just pray that you can do the will of God and then let Him have that desire to have Him direct you. And so that's where I feel peace. And I know our faith tradition teaches us to pray and ask God for guidance, and then to be open to whatever that may be.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. I see people are sharing in the chat. Thank you all for sharing there as well. I'm going to ask we have time for maybe one more reflection. Any raised hands, physical or... Mohammed, are you raising your hand? I think you are. It's a real hand,
Yes.
not a... Okay, I'm inviting you.
Okay, thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum, everyone, which actually means God's peace be with all of you. May all of you stay in peace. I would say just one word about peace. Wonderful reflections we had today on peace. So peace is, what I take as peace is not the absence of conflicts or war. There's a lot of stuff that relates to peace or relates to our inner selves. So basically what we are going through is there's a whole turmoil within human beings inside, it's inside as well as outside. And as there was a very big, beautiful presentation on guns. So I don't think the guns kill, it's somebody behind the gun. So the trouble is with us. So we are not having peace. We are not having peace inside, we are not having peace outside. And this I personally believe is, I live in this world, but the world is too much with us. So it's all materialism, it's all craze, and at the expense of spirituality. So when we people meet, we forget or tend to forget that human part, which actually makes us human. It's not our possessions that make us human. It's our feelings, it's our heart, it's our mind. It's our ability to recognize each other as a human being. So we are forgetting that. There's a whole division among human beings on the basis of what we possess. And that's why there's a lot of conflict going on in the world. And yet we say, oh, these are peaceful times. So peace is not just the absence of war. Peace has to be in. And faith traditions are doing their part, but unfortunately, we are not that strong as the gun is, as the material attraction is. So the whole focus of all of us as mankind has shifted from inside to outward. So we are all looking for peace in different ways. It may be sitting within us. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Well, everyone, I just want to thank you so much for bringing the holy to life in our midst with all of your sharing and making it personal and meaningful, and really, really lovely to be with all of you today. And to close us out with a benediction, I would love to invite Dr. Weatherspoon to share with us.
Thank you, and good morning to all. Fascinating just doing a study from world religions on the topic of peace, and understand that peace means many things to many different things to many different people. But peace is a freedom or a period of freedom from public disturbance or war. It's a quiet or calm state of mind, an agreement and harmony among people, an agreement to end war. See, every religion has some concept of peace and a variation of the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Peace is often classified in two ways: internal peace, or inner peace, or peace of mind or soul, and external peace. Peace requires human energy and effort into peaceful and constructive actions, whether internal or external. The Hebrew word for peace is shalom, which is derived from one of the names of God, meaning complete or wholeness. Peace is a concept for living in community, ensuring the well-being and health of all people, as well as the absence of violence. Truth, justice, non-stealing, chastity, non-attachment, right faith, right knowledge, and right conduct are needed to achieve peace, according to Muhammad Ajam, MD. The ideal world of justice, in the words of the prophets, is described as, and they, meaning the people,
shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. And nations shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. Isaiah 2:4 and Micah 4:3. In 2010, I was asked to write my version of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech. I was serving on the board of the General Commission on Religion and Race, one of the international boards of the United Methodist Church. And so from a United Methodist and Christian perspective, I want to share with you what I wrote. And then I want to invite you to write your own vision of your dream for peace. I dream a world without racism, a world without isms or abuse in any form, where all, capital ALL, are valued, affirmed, cared for, nurtured, and no longer hungry. I dream of a world where the word stereotype no longer exists in our dictionary or vocabulary, where anti-racism training would be part of the school curriculum K through 8, and where cultural immersion trips to other countries would be mandatory for all United States students, where handguns would be outlawed, all firearms would cease to exist, where police would no longer carry stun guns or tasers, where police car markings would say to serve our community instead of to serve and protect, where politicians would truly represent all people, not parties or just the few, where there would be no homelessness, where homes would no longer need security gates or bars or burglar alarms, back to leaving doors unlocked because we trust one another and no longer live in fear, where greed and materialism would be an attitude of the past because we share and everyone has enough, where relationships are more valued than more than profits, where there is a 4-day work week with living wages and benefits for all, and where everybody gets a 2-month vacation, where the number of jails and prisons are reduced by 95%. There will always be a need for a few, where the funds are used to reallocated to educate all children with a quality education, every classroom with technology, where the funds saved could be used for a restorative justice system versus our current retributive system to ensure children are indeed included in community, reaffirmed they are loved, valued, and their gifts affirmed. A world without borders, barriers, walls, fences. One church, a multicultural church where worship is no longer the most segregated hour. A true Pentecostal church, a welcoming church, an accepting church, a church where we learn about and value differences, not trying to assimilate, where still segregated sister churches between different cultures will worship together regularly and share joint ministries like the Interfaith Council, I might add, where everything was shut down on Saturdays or Sundays except for emergency services, where the lion and the lamb shall dwell together, where we become more community focused, living peacefully together, where we become God's beloved community. I just want to close real quickly with this prayer, if I pronounce it right, a Vedic prayer. May there be peace in the heavens, peace in the atmosphere, peace on earth. Let there be coolness in water, healing in the herbs, and peace radiating from trees. Let there be harmony in the planets and in the stars, and perfection in eternal knowledge. May everything in the universe be at peace. Let peace pervade everywhere at all times. May I experience that peace in my own heart. Thank you.
Well, amen, amen, and amen again. And I would love to invite Will for our closing song. And thank you so much, Dr. Weatherspoon. That was really beautiful.
That was amazing. And yeah, we should each write our own. Let's have a dream speech. And here's a familiar song by Cy Miller and Jill Jackson. I've adapted the language a little bit to be a little more inclusive. especially family, all are we. Let
Wonderful day.
Amen. Thank you.
Thanks, Rodney.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Bye,
you.
y'all.
Bye-bye.
Will, you're